My people, we're ready to mount up like an eagle. Stand and fight against evil. A system rigged and deceitful.
Welcome to the King Talks podcast, where we're all about truth, community, and discussing the things you care about, because we care about you. Of course, I'm your host, Adam Coleman. For all the family out there listening, you know we're all about chasing greatness here at King Talks, always bringing you fresh and interesting content, and in this episode, it's no different. Today we've got rapper, actor, businessman, and community activist David Banner with us on the show. David Banner sat down to talk with us about his personal journey that has led him towards being a more conscious and community-focused artist. We also get into how Banner overcame a battle with depression, the state of the black family, and then our guest gives us a breakdown of his new album, The God Box. Here at King Talks, we're interested in engaging a diversity of perspectives, and therefore we give our guests space to speak on issues that they're really passionate about. In this case, David Banner's commentary on spirituality provided an opportunity to delve into some of the broader issues impacting our community as it relates to history, religion, and the desire for truth. Portions of this original interview will be discussed on our next Table Talks episode, in which we explore not only David Banner's worldview, but also look at where Christianity fits within the black community amongst competing ideologies and belief systems today. We're giving you food for thought and then some here at King Talk, so stay tuned and enjoy.
My people, we're ready to mount up like an eagle. Stand and fight against evil. A system rigged and deceitful. King, you can hear it when I rhyme, I'm a king. Renewed in my mind, I'm a king. I got a different bloodline, I'm a king. Jump, I am a king, I'm a king.
Now, in case you haven't noticed around here, man, King Talks podcast, we're committed to bringing y'all fresh content and guests that really push the conversation. And today we definitely have a banger for you, all right? So our guest is an internationally known and critically acclaimed rapper, producer, actor, and social activist. You definitely can't sleep on what he's done for the community, even going before Congress to testify concerning the state of the black community. So I want to give a King Talks welcome to Mr. David Banner. How you doing there, brother?
Oh, man, thank you, bro. I need to take you with me, man, right before I get ready to speak or come out on the stage or something, bro. I might need you.
Hey, man, we try to do it big right here, man. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming on the show, man. So, definitely, man, I got so much to ask you, man. I want to dive right in here, brother. So apparently I'm late as to, what's going on with you as an artist. And really just in general, your change of perspective. I mean, I remember back when you blew up, and then it's like, one day I'm scrolling through my Twitter feed and I see you in there sounding like Marcus Garvey out here, man, talking about, talking about uplifting the people, and just bring me up to speed as to your journey from where you were when you made Like a Pimp and to the David Banner that made Magnolia.
Well, the truth is, it's always been there. And my real fans who've always followed me knew that. I was actually in a conscious rap group before I was David Banner called Crooked Letters. What happens is I've been conscious since I was in the 11th grade. And I really don't say this much because people love a story. So people love to say, David Banner just got conscious yesterday and, just his journey. And people love the storybook stuff, but it wasn't like that. The thing that people have to understand is consciousness is cool in concept. I always tell people, how can you tell a kid to dream when he doesn't have a bed to sleep in? You feel what I'm saying? The thing is when people talk about consciousness, what they don't understand is consciousness is just a state. How you use that consciousness is up to you. My perfect example of that is Darth Vader. Darth Vader was conscious. He was a Jedi. You understand what I'm saying? Like he understood the concept of the Force. But if you notice all the mistakes that Darth Vader made, shoot, if you ask anybody on the streets, they would have made that when they came to Darth Vader and said, "Hey, your kids can live, your old lady can live if you stand for this." Half of us, I would say 90% of us would be like, "Bet," So like for me, that was similar to my career. I've been conscious since the 11th grade, and all of that is cool. I'll give you one other example. That's similar to these kids in crack. I don't feel like kids want to sell drugs, but they know exactly what you get if you sell drugs. You don't necessarily know what you're going to get when you go to college. That's a toss-up. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
for me, I've always been conscious, but my life wasn't the stuff that I was rapping about. And what's crazy is most of these black folks that sit around here saying that they want better music, but they don't purchase that. I remember Oprah Winfrey one time sitting up talking about, how bad, rap music was. And it was her birthday that night. She was taking her butt to 50 Cent that night. She wasn't taking her butt to Common. So in theory, black people talk that. The other thing is people who are unconscious, like you say, they support. So what happens is Negroes want black people to get on, because think about it. I didn't get on when I was doing the conscious stuff in my group, Crooked Letters. I got on from like a pimp. And see, that's one of the misconceptions that black people have in America. White supremacy, period. If you look at Donald Trump's constituency, did they pay him? He's a multi-millionaire. If you look at most of these cops who kill innocent black men, women, and children, if you go to their PayPal accounts or their crowdfunding accounts, I've seen them make from $150,000 to $1 million. And they were on video for killing innocent black men, women, and children. So what we have to do as black people is stop talking so much and put our support behind people, because these children, I said it in my song, Amen. If you remember that song on the God Box, I said, you don't want to be a king because you saw a king get killed.
Mm-hmm.
You keep seeing kings get killed. So why would kids want to be revolutionaries? Why would kids want to be touching? When in actuality, we allow our conscious people to die and be killed and be murdered without any repercussions coming from our people. So, again, I've been conscious all the time. I was just drunk, high, and other things. And what happened was when I had my hit song, Get Like Me with Chris Brown, I got a chance to travel internationally. And I saw how America was broadcasting black men all around the world. And that was during the time when reality TV shows had just started. So what I think, and this is my concept, that was also during the time when they started pushing to militarize our local police forces. So what happens is they broadcast black people as being savages all around the world. And what's crazy is I honestly believe this, and I don't say this on too many shows, but since this is a black show, I'll say it, that hip-hop has almost become the right hand of white supremacy, because when they say that we are, those words that they use to describe us, and most of the hip-hop that comes out now, and I am talking about myself at the time, I'm not talking about any other rapper, we're falling right into the stereotypes and the stigmatisms that they're putting out about black people all around the world.
Wow. Hey, man, let's go there right quick, man. So, I mean, if I understand you correctly, it's almost like, rap music, hip hop has been weaponized against our community. Now, my question is, in terms of like how we're projected to, in the media, to other countries and what have you, like you said, how much of that is in our control though? Like, is that something that we're doing, or is it more so the A&Rs and people who, the suits behind the music?
Well, it's always our fault. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt. It's always our fault. We are the gods of our existence. Now, what they will do is make your life easier. It's no different than women scared to name their children Shaka or anything that has to do with something black because they don't want their children to be profiled on paper. Everything that black people do now in America, because we worked so hard during slavery, is to get some rest and to get some comfort. And to be honest, it's earned, but white America don't care nothing about that. They don't care nothing about what they've done to us because they don't have to be held accountable. One, because one of the things that I talk about is I don't think that we can talk about black businesses or black support until we deal with the fact that most black people, and I mean most black people, don't like being black. They want to be white. They want to be around their oppressor. You know, that's no different than what happened in the NFL. One of the reasons why it was so hard to get a movement, because most of these black folks are scared to miss their check when they have more money already than the median income of any black person for the most part in America. But because capitalism is unwavering or is so parasitic, we'll always want more. So we'll never really truly stand for our people unless we get back to virtue and having some underlying. Because if you think about the Ku Klux Klan mission statement has never changed. The NAACP didn't change. All of the black organizations, for the most part, have changed. But for the most part, they still don't like black and Jewish people. That won't change.
So, you know, there's a lot of, you know, in addition to just the music, obviously just the CD with the God Box, I mean, you had some other elements that you included in that package as well. Would you talk about that a little bit and why you included those things?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. Number one, what I realized is, again, like I told you, most black people don't like being black. So then in a lot of cases, most black people don't trust black products. They think it's a scam, or they subscribe to the way that most or a lot of white people feel about black businesses. When in actuality, most of the businesses that ever scam black folks were white, but we won't talk about that either.
Right.
So what I tried to do is put a level of professionalism. I actually spent 3 times more than most people spend on CDs just to make it great. I also created something that's called the God Box that you can order at davidbanner.com. I created our people our own flag. The book that helped me get to a certain level of consciousness that's called From the Broader Files. That's by that same guy, Anthony Broader. Tariq Nasheed allowed me to put Hidden Colors 3 in there. We were able to put Black Wall Street inside. There's 2 DVDs, there's 3 CDs, it's clothes. I wanted to be a box of consciousness. And to be honest with you, bro, black people have supported me at such a high level globally. The boxes are I actually sold 3 times, 4 times, 5 times maybe more of the boxes. And it was funny, somebody said that this was maybe one of the greatest marketing ploys in hip hop, in recent hip hop history. And I disagree with that because it came from a place of love. And I think that's the reason why it's doing so well, is because I said, imagine if I can give a young man or woman or anybody for that sake a box with a lot of the stuff that helped me in 43 years get to the level of consciousness that I have now, if I could put it in one package. And to be honest with you, brother, the limited edition God Box is probably the greatest accomplishment I've ever been able to do in my whole hip-hop career.
Now, a particular song, man, a particular song that really stuck out to me is the song Marry Me. You know, it's very pro-marriage, very pro-marriage, and you don't often hear that sort of a thing, obviously in the hip-hop community. You know, you put a lot of thought and artistic energy into the album. Like, what moved you to make, just kind of take your appreciation for all the sisters out there and make such a prominent, make it such a prominent statement on the album?
When I was able to travel internationally, I realized, a very wise man told me once, you can tell what type of people you're dealing with by how they treat their woman. So, if you look at ancient African history, the Trinity was not the God, Father, and the Holy Ghost. The Trinity was God, man, and the woman, in no particular order but God first. So what happened is, if you look at America, most people of all races who come to America want to be a white man. And what I realized is how we had been treating our own woman, our mothers, our nieces. And on my last CD mixtape that I put out, I asked the question to myself. I said, David Banner, would you let another man call your mother or your niece the B word? And I was like, no, I would kill somebody for disrespecting my mother or my niece. And then I asked myself, well, why would you call somebody else's mother, niece, or sister a B word? And so with me realizing, instead of criticizing other rappers, let me do better. That's what the God Box is about. Let me do better. We all looking for something exterior when all of our answers are interior. Everything. Let me change me. And if you look at me, like I told you before, I've always been basically saying the same things, but it wasn't until I started living, eating, speaking, breathing, sleeping, the stuff that I say, that people really start paying attention. So like for our women, bro, that was my responsibility to say that I'm sorry. And if no other man in this world feels the way that I do, I'll handle it. I'll be that example of what a husband looks like. And to men, I'll be the example of what a brother looks like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was just my responsibility to do better. Whether women reacted to it, they could never say that it wasn't somebody who outwardly said. And let me tell you, a woman magazine interviewed me once, and she said something awesome. She said, David Banner, even if you and Rudy Currents didn't mean what you said, she said, I didn't even think black men were thinking that way. She said the fact that you all thought about it was enough for me. And I was like, wow.
Wow. Well, I think it's something too, just a power to, helping people find themselves in a larger narrative, a larger story, and I go back to something you said a minute ago, kind of jogged my memory. You mentioned the Council of Nicaea at 325 AD. I think what's fascinating is that, that council comes about as a result of a debate between two African bishops. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when I see things like that, I see, African theologians like, Tertullian, Augustine, Cyprian, Clement of Alexandria, and,
talk there, brother.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
brother.
You start running down. I can get with it there. I can get with it. You know what I mean? So you start looking at all this history, both before and after the Council of Nicaea, where you find all these African theologians, some of whom formulated the very theologies that then later on went into Europe and were we'll just say taken up by Europeans, and we'll leave that there. But my point is, it's just
civilized Europeans.
What's that?
Yeah,
civilized. Yeah,
civilized Europeans.
But with that being said, man, is that again you're finding, for me as a Christian, finding faces that look like me in a larger story. I think it's very powerful, and in a mirror sort of a way, I think that you were able to accomplish that. Now you mentioned that's so powerful. You mentioned just the mental health side of it, and I know you've talked about in the past, like with your battle with depression. You've spoken about how you used to self-medicate with alcohol, to a large degree, and didn't know that you were even depressed until you got sober. Like, talk about that a little bit, like in terms of your own experiences in finding healing at that level.
Yeah, man. I was in some bad shape, bro. Dave Chappelle said it the best, bro. It's something, especially about entertainment and black people, that just don't match, bro. Chris Lighty, Shakir Stewart, people are committing suicide. That ain't black folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll kill a lot. We'll kill up a whole group of people. We ain't killing ourselves, but there's some things that's going on, and the problem is, in a lot of cases, some of the things to help us, we call it white folk stuff when it's not. Therapy is needed. We need, bro, therapy and meditation were the two things that changed my life the most, with the exception of, my spiritual, my belief in God. And I mean a real God, bro, not a God that somebody else told me about. Like my relationship with the Most High. And me having a mentor, because you got to have somebody that you trust. And that's one of the things that happens in our neighborhood. Black people feel like success is being around other white people, so all the smart black people will go and get around white folks. But the thing is about it, bro, like with depression, we can't find proper mentors, because all of our true people who have been able to successfully navigate themselves through white supremacy, they somewhere up under white folks. Think about our school systems, bro. Instead of sending your children to a white school, what if all the rich black parents sent their or created a black school or focused their money on the black school. So then you could pool your resources and make that school a competing school through the finances that you have. But instead, you go give your smart child who doesn't have all the hang-ups that most of the kids have because he has a little money and a little wiggle room, you go give him to white people. So now he has a stigmatism because everybody around him don't look like him, so he wants to be like that white Jesus on the wall. So then now we got two problems in the black neighborhood and then your children out in the white neighborhoods trying to be white.
Got you. So
I don't want the lights to start flickering at the show, bro. You know, we'll get you in trouble now. We're going down the rabbit hole, bro.
No, man, that's the thing, man. That's the beauty of being independent, man. We can ask the questions and whatever we want to talk about, we can talk about, you know. I mean, and to be honest with you, like I'm kind of tapering it back a little bit because I mean I study quite a bit, and I personally am fascinated by, you know, history, philosophy, and so when you talk about things like, you know, Heru, Asar and Aset, I mean, like, you know, I study that stuff all the time. You know what I mean? So it ain't no problem. It ain't no problem at all. You know, as a matter of fact,
and let me tell you what I love, and I thank you for it, bro. I thank you. Do you know Rock Newman?
Yeah, I've seen that show. I've seen that show. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you remind me a lot of Rock Newman in the way that you conduct your interviews. I mean, as an interviewer, you know, you have to leave it as open as you possibly can for all of your listeners, right? But you know how to throw the right questions in the air. Because you're well studied, because there's certain things that you know maybe outside of your average Christian partner. So some of the things that I may say, you know, that maybe people who are in conventional religions may take, like even how quickly you understood and came back on the Council of Nicaea. Mm-hmm. It's crazy that most Christians don't even know that the Council of Nicaea existed. So if you understand that, if you understood and knew what the Council of Nicaea was actually formed for, it would actually shake up the basis of what most Christians believe in. And I don't want to go into that. Mm-hmm. I think that's 5-10 years down the road. Mm-hmm. But like for you to understand that and comfortably be able to grasp that, for you to know about Heru I'm proud of you, brother, to be able to keep the basis of what you believe in, because again, I don't care what anybody believes in, as long as you know better, and apparently you know better. So your choice is a conscious choice, and I respect that more than anything else on this earth, bro. And I appreciate you for having me.
Hey man, I appreciate that, man, definitely, and just to kind of we're going to have to kick it, bro, because I find myself connecting with your story a little bit. Like, I mean, I haven't arrived at this place overnight. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was that Christian, you know, who was unaware of the types of things that you're talking about, and for me, it's not my nature to just have questions and not research. I just can't. I'm just a very inquisitive person. My parents raised me that way. They raised me to, you know, study our people, you know, and all the hallmarks that we've had as a people. And so I'm just inquisitive about Black issues and about history. And so what I found myself doing is I grapple with the hard questions about, you know, what I grew up on in terms of being a Christian. And so I started studying, you know, Kemet. I started studying Sumer. I started studying all those types of things. And while, even though like I just, you know, I keep it, you know, here with Heru, Asar, and Aset, even though, you know, I recognize from a historical standpoint that, you know, you do have some, you know, similarities in the story. Like from a historical standpoint, you know, generally historians wouldn't make the connection that one came from the other. They would just appreciate them both in their own context. I can appreciate, you know, the artistry of the Heru story. And I can appreciate, you know, the fact that the Egyptians came up with something that held this mythos by which they could, you know, derive some morality and just in kind of life lessons. And at the same time, you know, just looking at it purely historically, I can also look at the writings of ancient historians like Tacitus, Pliny the Younger, you know, Josephus, to see that, you know, whether I had a Bible or not, you know, you can affirm that, well, most of the historians would affirm that Jesus did exist. And then based on the evidence around the resurrection, there's just rational justification for Christianity. And so for me, I came full circle where I studied these different myths. And then I just took myself out of it and just tried to find the best evidence that I could to support what I stand on. And I find myself coming full circle, you know, believing in Christ, but from a more informed perspective. And I think that's what life is all about. Yeah.
Can I tell you, I just want to tell you one thing that I am, that I'll tell you that I'm proud of, bro, just to be honest with you,
Sure.
is that God wouldn't have made you an inquisitive animal if it wasn't meant for you to challenge God, him, her, or itself. Think about it, bro. We could have been dogs who mate at a certain time of year, who was programmed. Most animals are programmed to do certain things. They don't have, that's the only reason to be, between you and I, that's the only reason why I will entertain the possibility of a heaven or hell. I personally don't believe in heaven, in hell. I don't believe in a hell. But I will entertain it because we all have a choice. See, the difference between us and animals is that we have a choice. So why would God give you an inquisitive brain if it wasn't meant for you to challenge and think or be God like yourself? Like, we have a choice. So when people only want to listen to, or that's why, like, anybody who only discusses the book that they believe in, I won't have a conversation with them. I have a lot of Christians who, when they talk to me, their point of reference is the Bible. When in actuality, and I believe that you would know this, that the Bible, for the most part, is allegory. It was meant to be allegory, and then you take it and you use it the way that it was supposed to be used. But in most cases, like when I talk to you, you have other points and other historical references that proves or supports the things that you believe in. That's a conversation that I can have. Because if it's about emotions and about stories, I can't compete with you in your stories. Your stories is your truth. But we don't, again, like you said at the beginning of our conversation, if you don't have some historical references that back up your beliefs, then they're just that, a belief. Right. And I can't shake you from a belief, because that's an opinion that you came upon that I truly can't help you with.
Yeah, that's
in my personal opinion.
That's real. I think what it comes down to is, do you have evidence for what it is that you believe? And you can believe anything. You know what I'm saying? Like I can believe that I'm 8 foot tall and can dunk a basketball, but that doesn't make it true. The question is, do you have evidence for what it is that you believe? I'm gonna leave out with this, because one thing I think we can agree on is that the days of blind faith, I think, are over with. Particularly for the Black community. We're not in a position where we can afford to build our lives on something we just believe in just because. And so I think you definitely have to have evidence and reason to back up what you say. Unfortunately, I think a lot of our people, like, we jump out of the church and then we end up jumping into certain particular African religions. I'm not going to say any particular one. I'm not calling anybody out, but, we jump into certain, religions because, well, that's what the ancestors believed. And it's like, well, that's cool. But at the same time, even though if I know what the ancestors believed, that helps me in terms of answering the question of, maybe where I come from and what my folks believe, but it doesn't answer the question of whether or not what they believed is true. And I think that for us, as Black people, we got to get out of blind faith on the basis of pastor said, and we got to get out of blind faith on the basis of, well, the ancestors said, and then bring it back around to, what does the evidence say? And that's where we can build a strong community and build a strong people. And so when I listen to the God Box, I'm bringing it around circle. I'm like one of them old Baptist preachers, man. I say I'm a close and I get 4 more bars, what I mean?
No, that's all right. I'm from Mississippi, bro. I'm used to it.
But when I bring it back around to the God Box, I think that's what I find you seeking for, man, is answers to some really tough questions. And, and I applaud you for grappling with the things that our community is grappling with and doing it in a way that we can learn from.
Good thing, man. Well, blessings to you, man. And hopefully we'll continue this soon, brother. Thank you, okay?
Absolutely, man. Take care now. And of course, to all the listeners out there, be sure to slide over to iTunes and subscribe to the King Talks podcast. Hit us with 5 stars and leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, you can also subscribe to the King Talks podcast via SoundCloud as well. Now, if you're interested in learning more about the King Movement, definitely head over to kingmovement.com, where you can join our online community with no commitment and at no cost to you. To my King Talks family out there, thanks for riding with us once again. And as always, strong in the Lord.
Yeah. I brought the Kings with me on this one. It's a movement. Yeah. I had a dream. I saw saw black slaves in 2017, pulling them big king with a crown in the middle, looking like tug of war. I guess they forgot the inheritance of the Lord, dying over streets when God gave him the earth. It's all in the Bible, just do your research. White man's religion, that's just fake news. The cross hit Africa for Europe even knew. This ain't black versus white, this is dark versus light. But racism might distract you from the Christ on sight.